NEAR ecosystem is all open and welcoming. So you can go on GitHub and find all good first issues. There are plenty of them, and start tinkering. Also, you can go to DevHub and find the fellowship program and all the details about it. And if you have NEAR experience and you are willing to onboard other developers, please join the fellowship program to contribute, to guide them. If you are new to NEAR, but you still have a pretty good technical background, find the leaders that applied on NEAR DevHub, talk to them, reach out to them, ask for guidance.
So we believe to stop marketing, start engaging. That's what we're doing over at DevHub, is that now the focus is no longer just about, let's sell you something on why NEAR is the best developer experience, which it is, right? We all know it. That's why we're here. But we want to actually start to engage you as a user and better understand what do you need and how do we help you be successful instead of us trying to put our product to you.
Near ecosystem is all open and welcoming. So you can go on GitHub and find all good first issues. There are plenty of them, and start tinkering. Also, you can go to DevHub and find the fellowship program and all the details about it. And if you have near experience and you are willing to onboard other developers, please join the fellowship program to contribute to guide them. If you are new to near, but you still have a pretty good technical background, find the leaders that applied on near DevHub, talk to them, reach out to them, ask for guidance.
So we believe to stop marketing and start engaging. That's what we're doing over at DevHub, is that now the focus is no longer just about let's sell you something on why Near is the best developer experience, which it is, right? We all know it. That's why we're here. But we want to actually start to engage you as a user and better understand what do you need and how do we help you be successful instead of us trying to put our product to you.
Hey, we're back. Another episode of DevHub Live. I'm your host, Joe Spano. I am one of the moderators here at DevHub. I'm also a developer, and I'm excited to bring another episode to you this week. As a developer, we're always trying to do different things. We're trying to mix it up, and that's what we're doing here on DevHub Live. We had a little different format episode, and I think it's going to be a fun one. And then going back next week, actually next few weeks, we already have some great guests lined up, talking really in-depth dev stuff. Super excited about those weeks, but no hints just yet. But right now, I really want to just highlight some awesome things that are going on in the ecosystem. We're going to talk a little bit about actually coding with Rust on the ecosystem, and just looking at some minor examples and how to troubleshoot some of that. We're also going to talk a little bit about some upcoming community calls and get into the tweet of the week, which is our new segment, started last week, and I think it's going to be a fun one. So let's kind of jump into it. I one of the things that we announced as DevHub last week, and I think this is something that we're super excited about. So if you remember, Boris came on last week and came on to talk about the Bounty Booster program. And if you haven't heard about this yet, I think that this is something that, as a developer, if you are going to hackathons, this is a super intriguing opportunity for you. Well, it should be, because if I was doing more of this, it's absolutely something that I would want to actually be part of, right, myself. What that is if you go to any hackathon, any, so it could be a Web 2, it could be another blockchain, it could be anything, but you leverage Near and you win a prize. So Near has to be part of it, whether it's through the front end, whether it's through a smart contract, whatever it might be. You leverage that, you win a bounty, you win a prize. We will match it 100% up to $5,000. Now, that's something that I think any developer could probably get behind. One of the other things too is that, again, it's something where if you are just here to build and recognize what's going on in the tech stack here, where Near is not just about smart contracts, there's so many different tool sets and different options, and it really is becoming a full-on tech stack, whether it's chain abstraction, whatever it might be. I have things in the future even. I want you to really think about, when you're building something in a hackathon, to be able to maybe add in something here is almost a no-brainer. uh, how do you participate? It's super easy. You can scan the QR code, or you can go to the link that's scrolling at the bottom here. That's a blog post that breaks this all down for you. Again, it's something where, if you are participating in hackathons anyways, just think about it. It's a great consideration, but follow the rules. It's really simple. Just some social stuff, and then boom, you're off and running. And hey, you maybe got a few extra $1,000 in your pocket just from leveraging Near. It's just it's something where, again, I hope that, you know, as you are developing, you are really starting to think about, what that full actual tech stack is, regardless of Near. And that's something where we talked a little bit about in previous episodes, like when Boris and Owen came on, of like, what's a great project for a hackathon? How do I get started? And as you start to compete in more, and as you start to hopefully mature as a developer, it's a good time to always start thinking about, like, could this be a product? Is this something that is more than just for show? And that's where understanding all the different pieces of actually building on a proper tech stack of some sort. And again, there's no right or wrong answer here, especially in Web3, as everything is really, again, new. A lot of it's novel. And some of that stuff too, of where, you're trying to change the paradigm maybe of Web 2 and some of those tech stacks. It's a great opportunity to just explore and see, like, hey, can I actually do something unique? And we want to reward you for that. So if you're going out there and you're winning, we want to make sure that you actually have those opportunities to be extra successful, represent Near, and it's a great program. I really, really feel strongly about that. So that's the Bounty Booster. I think we're going to keep hitting on this regularly, because it's just such a great opportunity all the way around. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, there's some really great things, I think, that are happening in the ecosystem around the developer experience. And one of those things that I really wanted to hit on today, as it's just something a little bit different than before is, can we actually jump into a little bit of what some of the code, and not necessarily the tooling. We're going to do that in a different episode. I don't want to get too far into that. But can we get into some of the code of what it's actually like to start to develop? And by that, I mean of like, what are some ways to actually get started and kind of shorten that learning curve? Because what can happen is, and I feel like a lot of developers I talk to can relate to this, right? So unless you're like new, like you're out of college or you're coming out of high school, and you're like just like Web3 first, that's like the main first area you're at. Everyone came from like some form of Web2, whether it was small projects, enterprise, whatever that might be. And that transition to Web3 is more than just understanding the crypto side of it. It's also understanding some of the paradigms that maybe are a little bit different. But the thing that I think people sometimes get caught up in is maybe you're so worried about the concept maybe of like a smart contract and when do I use it. Stuff. It's like, well, you need to remember that it's still just programming. We're still just writing software. And for me, I know when I came into the Web3 ecosystem, it was very similar type of experience where I felt like, oh man, there's so much to know. And, I worked a lot in enterprise, and this is just a very different mindset. But then as you dive into it, you realize, oh, it's still just programming. Even if you don't know Rust and you want to build a smart contract, if you are I would say an average to even above average, you know, developer, you can pick up on it by just putting in some of the work. Now, there's always great tutorials, there's YouTube videos. I can point you to a million different things. But one of the things that I personally feel gets overlooked, and developers, you know, I sometimes think that we've gotten so used to the Stack Overflows of the world. I'm going to Google stuff now. It's the Chat GPT. I can just look stuff up. Well, I can ask it questions and hopefully it will provide me answers. That we sometimes forget that maybe actually sometimes the actual documentation is the right place to go. So let me show you a little bit of what I'm talking about here, and I hope this is helpful for some people and getting started on Near, especially with Near SDK. So let me pull up my screen here again. So there's documentation. So let's actually take a step back here, right? When you come into Near and you want to start developing, a great place I like to send people to, besides like the obvious, like just go to the docs, go to the DevHub homepage, of course, right? Don't forget that. But like, yeah, one of the places I like to send people is the Near Protocol Developer Guide, which is here. I'm gonna actually let's share this directly. It's just GitHub /Near /dx, and so that you can see that. And this is where you can get a good sense of all the things that are available to you on Near, and what are the different tooling options. If you want to dive into the protocol, now we have chain abstraction, all these different pieces all here and organized in GitHub. And so sometimes for developers, they want to start right with the code, and so you can get into that. And that's an exciting way to go in there. If you feel comfortable with it, absolutely dive in. It's a good place to kind of poke around. A lot of these repos have examples that you can jump into, things like that. Again, it's all open source, so you can contribute to it. So that's an awesome way to get an exposure to, is actually, making a pull request, working on something. That's a part of the ethos here, right? You're in crypto is open source. Uh, can you dive in and kind of start to contribute a little bit, even if it's something small, like maybe fixing a typo, just to get acclimated with some of these code bases. But one of the things that I think then gets overlooked is, all right, that's great and all, but now I actually want to start writing my own code. I'm going to, I'm going to start working at, I download, I'm download some of these different things here. So I want to start with smart contracts, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start writing with the, near SDK with Rust, which is again the preferred thing. If you don't know already, so a near or smart contracts compile into WASM, so you can actually write in JavaScript as well. But the preferred way really is Rust, and Rust is also on other ecosystems too. So if you're going to stay in writing smart contracts, it's not the worst thing to actually learn. Uh, but a trick that I picked up, besides again all the other learning, go to YouTube, all those things, was really actually diving into the actual Rust docs and starting to understand what the actual SDK is. And as you're looking through different code bases, or as you're writing your own, to be able to actually go in and click in and see what actually is the public key struct, and how is that set up, and what does it mean when I actually use that. And as you go through, you can see here, let's jump into something else here. Like here's like, all right, like, yes, here's an example. And so I can start to see all of these things. And what I think it does for developers, which we again are sometimes I'm the same way, so I'm not judging anyone. But sometimes you just get caught up in like looking stuff up, like I'm not really sure about something, and I'll leave it up to Google, I'll leave it up to Stack Overflow, I'll leave it up to ChatGPT. But what I felt like has really sped up some of my own personal development lately, and especially where I'm trying to troubleshoot things, was actually going to the source. And here's the reason why. Because even if I learn how to fix something through looking at somebody else's answer, the the thing that starts to happen, especially as you're into something more, is that you are find yourself like maybe almost constantly leaning on that type of stuff to fix issues. And where everything is moving fast, Web3 crypto is something that, again, if you've been around at all, you know how fast not just the technology moves, but the meta of the ecosystems move and everything else. But these SDKs are growing. I mean, yes, it's been on mainnet for a few years now, but we're constantly doing improvements. We're still trying to, get to that spot that we feel like really enables mass adoption from a developer standpoint, not just a user standpoint. So we're going to keep having those things. So that's where, for myself, and I would recommend this to developers, is actually going in and understanding what's happening in the SDK. And I can in these Rust docs, if you've never worked in Rust and never since, it's really, these docs are really nice, and I can jump in, I can see different versions. I can go through all of this, and it really gives me an opportunity to understand how this actually works underneath. And that's the part that, I think we sometimes take for granted, especially if you're coming from Web 2. And I'll pick on JavaScript a little bit. How many times, if you work in JavaScript, especially with frameworks, especially maybe with like React or whatever, and you are adding these, uh, you know, uh, different, node modules and everything, and next thing you know, like you're like, why doesn't this work? And you're trying to troubleshoot, and you're like, what got added? Is this some kind of add-on? Is it my code? Is something incompatible? And now you're sifting through all this stuff, and you have all of this extra, I don't want to say bloatware, because I'm not really bloating anything. It's just added stuff, right? Everything's an extra module now, where it becomes again difficult to maintain that code sometimes, even if you wrote almost all of it but you're just using some of these things. And so that's where, again, Rust is using crates, which is, again, the same concept there of like, okay, I can bring in these things that are maybe pre-built, but if I can understand what actually is happening under the hood here, it gives me so many more advantages to be a not only better but like more efficient, and hopefully over time a faster developer, because I start to actually understand what I'm working with. So this is, I think, is a great opportunity to spend some time, with the different SDKs as you get stuck, actually jump in, actually try to figure out like what's happening, things like that. Uh, Another great example here, which I think, if again, hopefully people really appreciate when we see a new release, having examples right here in the code that I can look at of like, oh, here's a change, right? So they made a change of how, some instead of like uh near bind gen, now it's just near. And what does that mean? What is it actually generating? I can start to go through and see all of that type of stuff. And now, again, I can go here and I can go back in and let's say, oh, okay, here's this new one near. It's like, okay, what actually happened here? So it looks like, well, before, you know, maybe if you did, maybe I said, oh, I used to have near bind gen, that macro uh was doing X, Y, and Z. So what does just plain near do? Well, here's this code. Effectively, it's doing all of this. And you're like, oh, okay. I now understand when I add that in, this is actually what it comes out to be. And so this is just invaluable type of stuff to understand what's actually happening here. Okay. So again, I hope this is helpful to people. That actually brings me, though, here. Last time we did it at the end, but I'm going to do it right here because it fits with what we're talking about, is the tweet of the week. And this is something that, again, I love this stuff. This is where it really helps developers and grows the ecosystem. That, there are all of these tools out there that people don't always recognize that are available, that you can just jump into and really start to help and streamline the development process. So there's a brand new release of the Near SDK contract tools. It has the latest SDK support. It's upgrading to all the NEP implementations, and I'll show you what that means in a second here. Nice little code snippet, looks really nice timeline here. But actually, let's see what's going on. So here's what this is, and I think this is just, again, a super helpful tool. Maybe you don't actually need it, but it's full of helpful functions and macros so that you can just speed up your development process. So if you're working with NFT contracts, if you're working with fungible tokens, and you can see it's a package that has all of this great stuff in here, and it's all following the standards, and it just makes your life easier. And so, we need to remember, while things are new and things are novel, there are things like this out there, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you're trying to build something out. And most importantly, there are people who are working on this who are, like Jacob, actually, really putting together not just an awesome package here, in this crate, but like really, detailing out in the documentation what's available to you, what's happening. I highly encourage, if you're not following Jacob, uh, give Jacob a follow so that you can, really see some great stuff that's, he's working on coming out of the new protocol. And just, if you're building anything that's leveraging, all these different pieces here, whether it's, escrow owners or fungible tokens or NFTs, give this package a look. I think you'll see it's pretty helpful to get in there. So that's the tweet of the week. Thank you, Jacob, for continuing to work on this stuff. It's super exciting and really keep building. And I hope this is more people take advantage of this. All right, let's jump into let's stay with this, and we're gonna jump into a little something here. Let's talk about some examples of coding. Okay, so we're talking about Rust here. We're talking about maybe working on some stuff that is specifically for the near protocol. And so there's some things here that I think I'm not going to go into all of the pieces of an actual full contract. I'm going to pull out like little blocks and functions just to show again. I think sometimes that people in their heads overcomplicate what actually is happening in a smart contract. And I'll say again, I'll just speak for myself, but again, I've heard this from other devs too, that sometimes like when you have this picture in your head when you're coming into crypto, is that like, oh, these smart contracts, like they must be like so detailed and all this logic and all this stuff, when like in the reality, like maybe it's a couple hundred lines of code, if that. And so let's not overcomplicate things. And sometimes again, less is more, just like in any other stage of coding, less is more. So we're going to do a little example here of just simply, for a near contract, right? That, can we do something where we're looking up someone's user balance and then adding that to the contract state? And really fairly straightforward process here. And if you're not aware, and so again, you're kind of maybe new to this. So again, the state is just like, when you say like the state of the data, right? Like so like what is it now? Like you're updating something to now, right? It's based off of, okay, what it was the last piece here. What is the source of truth? And so we want to make sure that, for again in this example, we're doing that. Now, let's talk about again really simple some stuff here. In setting up our contract and kind of what this would look like. Again, I'm not going to do the full thing, but let's just put in the pieces that we need at bare minimum to actually achieve something like this, where, hey, let's find that, let's leverage set balance and save that here into state. So first, what we need to do here is we're going to set up a struct for our contract. Please, ignore, please. Oh, this is way too many. So here's the thing. Here's I forgot it with Copilot. So maybe we should maybe pause Copilot here. But so one of the things here and why you have to be careful is, okay, I'm typing in, okay, yes, I want balances. That's what I want. A hash map, maybe, that's what the default put in. Again, here's an example where, well, maybe I actually want it to be a lookup map instead. And maybe I want this to be, U128. Look, this is where I just think, please be careful if you're still learning and you're still trying to understand all of these AI things, and like these co-pilots and ChatGPT are super helpful. But at the same time, it's one of those things like where you can, I don't say get yourself in trouble, right? Because maybe something isn't necessarily wrong. It's not maybe always like the best approach to like what you're trying to do. And again, like both of these examples here are again more or less the same thing, right? So but in the SDK of near, like lookup is really the way to write that. And so that's the thing where, again, yes, okay, it's in Rust, the standard thing here would be, a hash map, but because we're writing this for near, we want it to be, a lookup map. So that's, again, we just want to really make sure that we're doing some of the things that kind of really fit, what we're trying to do here. Okay. So let's continue. And again, there's always multiple ways to do anything. So now, all right, I'm going to set up. I'm going to implement my contract here. I'm going to try not to trigger the Copilot. And what's great here is now, so I want to first now make sure that my function is public. And actually, the Copilot is doing a great job for me. Where this is actually kind of what we want to do is, as you can see here on the screen, I'm setting up a function that is public called setBalance, and I'm going to actually pass both the account ID, so that's going to be the wallet. So what is the wallet? And then what's their balance? And I'm going to save those two things together, and there we go. So here, I'll just let that happen. Voila. And again, like, this is very straightforward and simplistic, and like, it doesn't have to, again, be this whole hectic set of code. It doesn't have to be overdone. So these little things, I think, are just good examples to walk through yourself and get accustomed to some of the stuff for smart contracts. Okay. Let's even let's go a little bit more advanced example. Okay, so this example here of, we're gonna add an access key. This is a very specific example for blockchain, right? We were doing something that is directly tied to an experience with blockchain. I need to add an access key for the smart contract for that account. So great. How are we going to go about doing that? And now we have all different data types here that we're going to have to manage. Right, we're going to the access key, right? We need a public key that's going to be tied to that. So there could be all these other things in order to actually do that. There's some things that maybe have to happen asynchronously, and so we need to really start to leverage the Near SDK a little bit. So here is where. So I'm gonna show an example where, let's actually like load in the Near SDK and just kind of talk through a little bit of what you could actually start to leverage here. So imagine public key, we need our environment, and we're going to need promise, definitely. Okay. So, oh, okay. So I put in here a few different things out of the SDK. You say, well, what is all this stuff, right? And this is why I'm telling you, if you're new to this is a great opportunity to do this, right? You say, well, what is public key as part of Near SDK? I don't have to define it. I don't. What am I getting from that? Well, glad you asked. Okay, so let's go and find public key. So here I am. I'm in my structs. I go to public key, and now I can see exactly what it is. Okay, so here it is. It's part of the SDK. It's already formatted a particular way. I know I can now pass this in. And so I know what I need to pass in as my public key. And if I need to learn what else is tied to it, I can go, right? It's all here. Okay. So that is an awesome opportunity, again, to keep learning. Okay. So let's go back to this. So then I also have, promise. Okay, well, I know what maybe promise is. Maybe if I work in from my other different languages, I'm really not sure what they mean by that here. So let me look that up, and I can go here, and I can start to go through this and say, okay, that's also a struct. So let's go to promise here, and now I can see, oh, okay, what's actually what is this going to do for me? Well, what is this simplifying by being part of the SDK? And a promise is still a promise here. It's not any different than as you're using in JavaScript, whatever else. It's the scheduled execution, though maybe on another contract, right? And so there's different things that maybe we need to actually return a value. We need to have some cross-contract calls, whatever that might look like. So there's different things that are maybe happening, and so that's where a promise comes into play. Right. So now let's go back to our code. We say, okay, can we, oh, we don't want this. See, here we go again. Here we go. Number one, live coding. Sometimes it's a nightmare. Number two, these co-pilots are, they get excited. And so this co-pilot needs to simmer down a little bit, and let's take it easy. All right. So what's our function here, right? So our function is we want to add an access key, right? So that's what we're trying to do here. Same thing. I want this to be public. So I want it to be fun too, but look at this. Okay. So here is where, again, it's making a mistake. This is not what we want, right? So if you look at what this copilot is trying to give me, is trying to say, I have, use something called access key. Well, I know that's the name of the function, but really we're using public key because public key is already defined as a struct in the near SDK. So that's what we want to use. So that's what we're going to use. So that's why you have to be careful when you actually use any of these different tools. So that's where, I see, that's what happens. Okay, let's try to do this. All right. So what I actually want here, though, is I'm using public key. So I'm going to call it here public key. Public key. Ooh. Just look how much stuff's going on here. All right, this has to shut off. This is too much. All right, let's just disable this for us for now. Because this is too much. All right, let's go. Here we go. Public. So now I can actually use public key, which I know has been defined. I looked it up in the Rust documentation, the near SDK Rust documentation. I saw what it's going to do. Great, it's here. So now let's actually define the function. We're going to keep this super simple, right? We're not going to overcomplicate it. And so again, we'll use the account ID here. Okay. Now, here is where we called environment. So we didn't talk about environment yet. Okay. Now, environment is obviously the environment of the contract, right? So we want to know, like, what are we interacting with right now? And what is the current account ID that is interacting with the contract? So let's go back to our documentation here, okay? And as we go through, so let's go here. So here is a module called environment. So you say, okay, let's get a better sense of what's in here. Well, now these are actually, again, it just says right here, blockchain specific methods available to the smart contract. And so all of this different things here are already, again, something that you can call with it. So here you go. Here's what we're using, current account ID. But maybe I need to pull the epoch height. Maybe I need to call, let's say prepaid gas. There's all different things here. Again, save yourself some time. Look through this. Try to get a sense of what's going on and what you can actually leverage when going through this. So we're going to call the current account ID. All right, here's where we're going to pull our promise in, right? So I need to actually, because we're adding something new, okay, we are creating essentially a new account where we're pulling that, I shouldn't say a new account, we're pulling that new public key into this contract, and we're adding that. And so we want to make sure that, again, all of this stuff is processed before anything else happens, right? That's the idea here. All right, add access key here. So we're calling ourselves in this function, right? We need the public key first, which we defined. All right. Uh, okay. So now, again, we are doing a bunch of different things here, okay? That I think for, again, as you're getting into this and as you're starting to go through this, there's some good questions that you can start to look up of, you know, what is actually in this code and how is this all functioning. So let's go, a step deeper here of what's actually happening with this. So first off, again, we're leveraging our environment. We are leveraging all these things that are built into the Near SDK. The next piece here is we are actually saying, okay, you know, what is the public key? And the second thing here for this add access key, right, is what is the allowance? Okay. In this example, the allowance is, again, there's no allowance here. Okay. What account is it being tied to? Well, it's the current account ID, right? So we've already defined that. So we're saying this public key is being tied to this account ID. So this is all, again, like the requirement was to add a new access key to the contract account. We are saying this public key is being added to the account ID, which is the current account ID there. Now, again, the byte string here of the call. Okay, that's all we're doing here. This is a native Rust here saying this is permitted to actually call. So we're going to turn this into a byte string to actually send that. And that's it. It's super simple. And now we've achieved what our goal was here. That, and again, just a few lines of code, and we're not overcomplicating it. And the beauty of all of this here is that we're leveraging a lot of the stuff that's in the SDK already. We're not rewriting new code. It's all there for us. So again, I can't emphasize this enough to take the time and go through all of that. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you have questions, if you need support, you need help, we have some awesome DevRels. You can jump in and jump into our Telegram, ask some questions. We're all there to help you in whatever you might need. I would also recommend that besides the dev support in Telegram, obviously, near docs, that's an easy one. Make sure you're checking that out. All right, let's go to the next thing here. Let me remove that. So I want to talk about a couple different things here that I think are something that, as a developer, that we really hope that you start to understand better of all the stuff that's being built wherever it is, whether again it's on blockchain or something else. We want to make sure that we are actually thinking about our user base. We're thinking about like actual examples of like what is the user journey, what is actually w- what can I leverage to make that experience better for them. So I want to go. We're gonna go back in time a little bit, and I want to go back to NearCon now a couple of years ago. So this was not in 2023, 2022 actually, and we have we have a couple clips that I want to show you of an interview that I was lucky enough to be part of with Ilya, one of the co-founders of Near, talking about two specific things that I think for developers, it's really important to hear and think about as you're building something. So let's take a second here and let's actually go to and watch a couple of these clips here. They're short clips, so let's do this one first.
Ideal way you want users to come into the Near blockchain ecosystem?
It always starts with some application, right? Because like if you think of it as a user, you probably don't care as much about like underlying infrastructure. You want to start with a sweat coin, an experience, and then through that you're like, oh shit, this is interesting. You figure out that actually like, oh, I can see my stuff there and I can use it there, right? So like you have things like Niche, which is a community. You have NFTs, but then these NFTs show up in your wallet, which you can use, for example, to get into a event or get a ticket or something.
Let me pause right there.
Right, like.
So one of the things that right off the bat, that again, why the short clip I think is great, is that the end user doesn't care about your infrastructure, right? So you need to make the decisions that fit what you're trying to achieve. What's the experience you want to bring to your users? So if they don't care what you're using, that's where it becomes really important that you're finding the best tech stack that fits your expected outcomes. Let's you continue to use Near here as an example, right? So he's talking about Sweatcoin here and some of the different things they're doing now. Now, when this video was made, Sweatcoin was new to the Near ecosystem. They had just done their first big like token drop. I think we added, I think he says in one of the videos, like 15 million, or I say like 15 million wallets at that like one shot. And, that's something where, Sweatcoin was a Web 2 product, moving to Web 3, found the right tech stack, and now is still building and is leveraging that to provide a particular user experience, right? So yeah, let's just get the last thing.
So you kind of have this like fluidity of motion, and that's what Web3 is.
Yeah.
This composability.
And that's it. Like that's a great like end line of that short clip, right? Of like, that's what is really possible here, right? Because things are open, things are interconnected. This is now again like over 18 months ago. Right. So where you can see the evolution of what Near has grown into. Now we're talking about chain abstraction, but it's all still the same concept here as a developer, that like, can I build this experience that serves the needs of my users? Not just cool tech for the sake of cool tech, but can I actually use it as a solution? And that's where a lot of the stuff that's happening here in Near right now is really valuable to be able to do that. Hence the bounty program, but we'll go back to the bounty program later. All right, so that's that one. Let's go to another one here. Let's what else we got here?
Boarded 13 million new wallets. What did you guys sell him on that made them so excited to actually go on Near?
One was we had a very aligned vision. They're very like, hey, it's all about the users. It's about onboarding them in the smoothest way, right? That was like the main thing. I don't think anyone else in this space is actually putting any attention on that. Number two is this.
Okay, let's stop there. So again, lots changed since then. I think there's a lot of amazing onboarding experiences. It's something that I feel like we can certainly point to, not just here. I know a lot of different chains, there's some pretty good stuff, but there are some uniquenesses to the account abstraction ability that's on Near. That again, if it fits your tech stack, if it fits the experience that you're trying to build, it's an awesome opportunity to start to leverage that. All right, so let's continue.
The scale they are operating with, like they've actually tried other blockchain, they do not scale to that, right? We actually like at the call, I made a smart contract for him and loaded up with their load and showed that it actually works, right? It wasn't like, hey, you need like a bunch of infrastructure, side chains, or whatever. Right. It's like it literally works right now, and it, and we just continue optimizing, making stuff better, right? And then third is like I showed him kind of our commitment to like as an ecosystem and specifically as core team like that works on protocol to continue innovating on this, right? Near is all about kind of continuous innovation, in iteration.
Okay, let's pause right there. So again, this is almost 18 months ago. Are they fulfilling that promise? I think so. I mean, and that's what you hope for. And that's where, again, I think what Ilya is saying here is that as you find your tech stack, does it fit your needs as your product grows? And so, the continuous innovation, it's just nonstop. Keeps being new stuff. And hopefully you can continue to kind of build and grow your product in that environment. That's so important for you as a developer, whether you have a hobby project or actually trying to build a startup, whatever, that you're finding that tech stack that lets you get to where you want to go, whether it's near or anywhere. But in Web3, especially, it's like, does this not just like the cool thing today, but I need something that's going to actually lead me to tomorrow as well.
So for me, that commitment is all about we're shipping new sharding phase, we continue doing that. They're gonna get their own shard as things are expanding. This kind of stuff is how you get truly the scalability, but also you continue delivering on what people are expecting.
I mean, how about that, right? So that's long enough now. Enough time has passed where he's talking about giving them their own shard. We're now up to 6 shards. I mean, it's the ecosystem has grown. And again, it's that commitment to actually what is possible with your tech stack, and does this fit the user experience? And for Sweat, it's made sense. They're still building. There's a lot of great stuff that's happening. So these are things I think as a developer, it's more than just writing good code. It's more than just being really creative and trying the latest and greatest, which is fun. And don't get me wrong, I love all of that stuff too. But if you're going to actually build a product at some point, you have to be able to think about what is that tech stack? What are those things that can actually start to really help me grow this product and actually have something sustainable, for my users, and make it, again, what I picture in my head. And so you need to be able to balance all of that as you go through here. Hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that's cool. I kind of like going back and seeing some of the different videos. It's cool to be able to hey, here are these different claims. Where are we at now? 6, 12, 18 months later, are we fulfilling promises? I look, and I don't think no one's going to always hit the mark on all of those. And I'm not saying that has to be the baseline, but when you go back, and I think for any developer to watch any of these old clips, right? Not just for Near, but anything you want to build on, whether it's an Amazon, whether it's, another blockchain, whatever it might be, that hey, is this going where I want it to go? Because this problem is not just a Web3 problem, right? I mean, how many things has Google sunset, right? That what people were excited about, people were using, and then they sunset it, right? It happens. And so you just need to make sure, are you serving what your users need? Do you have the infra and tech stack to do that? And that's why, again, we're going to keep bringing this home. If you are doing a hackathon and you're building out your tech stack, if you leverage Near, you can kickstart your way. I mean, come on, this is easy stuff here. Let's not forget. I'm gonna bring this back up on screen here. Let's bring this back on screen. This is one of my favorite. I think initiative is so great. So again, make sure we're not forgetting this. Let's also, while we're here, let's pull up what's going on coming up in the ecosystem. In the developer ecosystem, it might be a little bit small on your screen here, but we can maybe zoom in a little bit here. Let's there we go. We'll zoom in a little bit. All right. All right. So these times are UTC, if you're wondering. But coming up next week on Tuesday, we have a tools community call. That's at 5 p.m. UTC. So that's a great place to talk about tooling again. And if you're not comfortable with any of these things, you can just go there and listen. You don't have to participate. You don't have to do anything. Just go and listen. Just go and learn. Sometimes it's a hard time. And so if you miss something, everything is on our DevHub YouTube channel. We put all our calls there, so you can always go back and watch if you missed something, if you missed the whole call completely. If you want to see the history of something, you want to go back. I think those are all, really great opportunities to just, again, be involved and learn a little something. There's so much. No one can know everything. It's nice to just get exposed. Wednesday next week, the 15th, Docs community call. Again, that's documentation. Again, not everybody loves putting together documentation. I'm not always the best at documenting my own software sometimes, but it's a great call. I think, again, it's a great opportunity to see what's needed and things like that. Again, easy way to jump in, participate, what to kind of contribute, be part of an open source project. Right after that, too, we do have a marketing sync. And so, again, that's a nice, if you're interested in what we're doing at DevHub from a marketing standpoint, it's a nice opportunity to jump in. I hear that. That's actually a call that I run and I'm a part of. So, again, you can jump into that. Next Thursday, we have 2 sets of office hours, both one that is more geared towards, I guess let's say, well, the European time zones, and then one's more geared towards the Americas time zones. So those are there. Then obviously we have this show every Thursday at 5 p.m. UTC. So that's what's going on next week. You can go to our DevHub calendar and check it out at any time. All this, if going right through here, I'll put this up here. You can see all our communities. You can go near devhub.org. Everything is there. You can see what's going on, upcoming, other events. Yeah, anytime a call gets scheduled, it will be here as well. So I think, again, make sure you're checking that out. Look, this was. I hope everyone had fun and learned something here. Really, some exciting stuff that's coming up in the ecosystem that I can't wait to share with everybody. I can't share now, but we have some great guests coming up the next few weeks here on live. They're really going to do some deep dives into some different topics that I think are critically important for developers. There's some hackathon events coming up. So ETH Berlin is coming up. ECC is not too far away. These are, these are great events to be part of. Consensus coming up. So again, a lot of opportunities to just be involved, to around, check out the bounty program, bounty booster. Let's keep hitting that. Again, if you are looking for help or any kind of support, please come to our Telegram. It's active. It's not just DevHub team members. It is also the community. There's a lot of really helpful, smart people in the ecosystem that if you have a question that, you need help with, people willing to help and jump in and go from there. Lastly, as we wrap up here, again, I just hope that everyone, not only, again, you learned something, you got something out of this, but I will let you know that, as you start to build more, or if you've already been building here on Near, as you go, make sure you are staying connected to other people in the ecosystem. And we'll call it like a PSA, like a rainbow or something, right? And more, stay connected to other developers. Come in these chats. Just ask a question for the sake of asking a question. Chat with people. Join different groups. Be around stuff, because it's so easy in building, especially in a pseudonymous world where a lot of people are just known by their username and their avatar or whatever else, that it can feel isolating on your work or whatever else. Sometimes it's hard. You feel like, well, how am I supposed to build that networking connections? Jump into stuff. If you're not sure where to go, come again back to the main dev channel on Telegram, and people will gladly point you in some different directions. But there's so many great opportunities to just be part of something and make sure you're staying connected with what's going on. I think it just helps that that developer motivation as well with all of that. Well, this has been a blast for me. It's been fun. There's a lot of talking for 1 hour for myself, but again, we will be back next week, same time, 5 p.m. UTC, DevHub Live. You can actually anytime make sure you follow up. You know, we have our great newsletter. You're subscribing there. Make sure that you are following us on Twitter. All our different stuff here. Well, let's bring that up on the screen too. Just here we go. Easy way to stay in touch. What's going on, connect with us, send us a message. What we just love hearing from the community. That feedback is invaluable to us because we are here to help you. We want you to be successful. We as DevHub are here to continue to grow the developer ecosystem, and that ecosystem does not happen without devs like yourself. So again, can't thank everyone enough for checking this out. Follow all our socials. We're everywhere. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are all over the place. Make sure you're following along. We got some great stuff coming, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.